Welcome to the Dogger Pass podcast. I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you can find across the interwebs. But on this here program, the Dogger Pass podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today tonight. Whenever you're listening to this, hopefully it's before the fight. Fight in question is UFC Mexico, UFC Fight Night 268, UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Kavanagh. And to break down the action, of course, I got to have the co-host with the mostest, my man, Mad Lab Mike at Mad Lab MMA. You can find him over at the madlabmma.com. What's up, Mike?
What's going on, dude? Been better. Had a great night on Saturday night until we got this put in our face like this. Look.
Yeah. Oh, right? No, that's great. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I didn't see that going that way. It was crazy too, because we were setting up. That was the fight that was setting up for to just conclude a great night, and it was just an off night all the way around. We had one fight on a parlay that for boxing that didn't even happen. Hitchens got sick, that knocked it down. Then there was one fight that went to a draw, but we were still riding good. And then I don't know what happened, bro. Listen, I'm not going to make excuses. Bad call on my end. I probably should have just stayed away from it, but I don't know, man. I just never expected the fight to go like that. Just the way his blueprint was, everything about it was very odd. Not taking away not from Strickland or the people that pick Strickland. Take it zero away.
Sure, absolutely.
But I don't know. Am I wrong? Was it just an odd, kind of approach to that fight?
Yeah, so I'm glad. And folks, we'll get to UFC Mexico. It's a kind of a card that not a ton of us are excited for. We still got plenty for you, like we always do. But we're definitely going to be not worried about time on this one because I think we're going to get that through that breezy. So if you'll allow us, I think this was a card that, and I'm not saying this to cope or soften the blow. I got absolutely washed. You did much better than me, Mike, to make yourself feel a little better. I got reverse swept, just, hung upside down. I looked ahead. I'm like, I don't like this card for betting. I still don't, although I still got a lot to give you guys if you do. So don't worry there. But because of that, I actually liked a lot of betting stuff more than I thought. Me and you both did, right? Even in areas maybe we don't venture. So at least my thought process, Mike, was let's go kind of heavier on this card, and God forbid, maybe I can get 2 wins in a row because that's been the hardest thing. I know it's been hard enough winning, all jokes aside, seriousness, right? But it's this, Mike, it's not about, betting big. It's about stacking those wins. And man, whenever I really need it to happen, it doesn't happen. The last fight night in Texas, I got reverse swept. And this one too. And to bring it back to what you said about the top of the card with Strickland and Hernandez, it's tough because you're correct. You could say, Hernandez, even if he wasn't going to be successful with the takedowns or this or that, was striking a bit too long for our liking there. And Strickland was doing a lot of things I said, with the jabs and the teeps to the body, and a lot of people said it too. It's and it was there, and I was obviously happy for my guy Eric Nixick, hitting these big upsets, but kind of like with Zhang and Johnny Walker, right? Where it's like Johnny Walker may be more defensible to pick against, right? Not just from the odds, but as far as unreliability. Say what you will about Strickland, there is a certain level of consistency that you can count on, right? And yeah, man, I just feel like it's a trap for me, Mike, to even touch these fights. I don't even know how much I can give you or the audience sometimes because I'm like, I feel like I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't, I messaged my guy Eric. I'm just like, I feel so stupid, picking against, and I picked Strickland before and stuff. So it's not like I don't pick him or this or that, or do you get what I'm saying, Mike? I just feel damned if I do, damned if I don't in this spot. Yeah, I'm trying to give you guys the best I can, but
he finds these spots, man. He did it against Izzy. He did it against, Fluffy. He finds these spots, but like I said, the approach to me was just strange. It was a very strange approach. Even if you're going to fail on takedown attempts, the mindset of he's not giving up. He's still pressing my hips. He's still inside. The biggest takeaway, how do you take away somebody's jab or somebody's teep kick? You enter the fray, you get inside, you lock them up, you pin them against the cage, you grind on them. That takes away range. It was just an odd approach. And like I said, I think I said it on this show. I know I said it on my pod on my site, but I think I said sometimes these fighters want to prove something. He's in Texas, he was in main event, he wants to prove I'm not only a wrestler, everyone thinks I'm a grappler and this and that. I'm going to try to stand and bang with this kid. And I said if he does that, he's going to get chewed apart. But I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that. But like I said, it could have been Strickland just keeping him on the outside, keeping him honest, tagging him with some body shots and, making him think twice before he shoots. And he had good movement. Like I said, that Philly shell, it's different until it's in front of you. It's one thing watching it on film, but it's another thing when you're in there and you actually have to penetrate it.
Yep, and as you know, Mike, circling off the jab, basic fundamentals that you always talk about, that gets a lot of mileage in MMA, even at the top level still, right? You wouldn't think it'd be that big of a separator, but just by being able to do fundamental basic things that you see in boxing on many levels is still problematic when guys do it in MMA. So I absolutely don't want to discredit Sean's game there. I will say he was getting, it felt like Hernandez was getting a beat and being able to counter the straight punches like I thought he might be able to. But I think I said it on the podcast, Mike, where I was like, Sean goes to the body a lot, but they're mainly teeps. If he had like a knee or like a good liver left hook, I would pick him all day here. You know what I'm saying? And it was a knee that Kevin Holland was able to hurt him to the body with, right? And sure enough, Sean throws I feel like that was the first knee of the fight he threw, Mike, and he hurts him with it, right? And it was just downhill from there. And then I don't know about you, Mike. Did you end up firing on Ige's points handicap like I did? Because I cursed it. I cursed poor Ige. Got his first stoppage loss. Shouts to Melt Costa. I mean, I aged well as far as having him as my under the radar fighter. I had Steve Garcia last year, and look at Melt Costa. Everybody's saying, "Wow, he wasn't on my radar."
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't pull the trigger on it. I did. I pulled the trigger on Rowe plus 3.5, which full transparency. I think I got away with one there. I got away with one there.
That was a smart bet, though.
It was, I thought it was a smart bet, but I still think, like I said, transparency. We could have got a little lucky there. And Pereira, I thought was either value or a trap. I went on the value side, and I think we might have got away with one there too. You know what I mean? So I can't complain all that much, even though I took a slight loss.
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain too much, and you can't get too high. I saw people going, "Oh, when my first bid for the night was the death taxes, and Dan Tom always missing his first bet, no matter how he does. I missed the over or the under in the Judice and Miller, and I'm not mad because I called it on the show. I shouldn't be doing WMMA parlays, much less with unders. And yes, folks, feel free, Mike, everybody, slap me, torment me if I do unders. No under, F under, violence, baby, violence. Everybody, in the betting community, violence bets, they're so popular, right? And then, of course, I'm on it and it doesn't hit. And of course, people are like, why would you ever bet on under in a women's fight? Overs every day. And it hurts because I'm usually a team overs guy. And so it's extra annoying. And then not 2 fights later, we have a female fight that, by the way, Mike, massive congrats on you for calling that round 2, right? But it also was an abrupt stoppage with the Edwards and Nora Cornhole. You know what I'm saying? And all those people, Mike, that were just 2 fights ago going, overs, baby. I didn't hear shit from him then, Mike.
Yeah.
I didn't hear shit from him then.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things.
Game. You've been around.
Yeah. It's just how it goes. And I think lastly but not leastly, the unders basically, just slap me, folks. Even though one of the unders I took hit with the Neal and Medic, that was the right call because boy, the Neal, I mean, he looked good coming on the scales. And Mike, I don't know if it was what you said, you don't get too narrative often, but your narrative hit that time with Neal because everything else pointed to him getting the win there. And boy, he's just gone.
I'll tell you what narrative the result was right, but the narrative was completely wrong.
Okay.
Was the Spivak fight. The Spivak fight, I said that I haven't seen Delija on his back. That's why I picked Spivak. I said I haven't seen him on his back. I haven't seen, and this fucking guy Spivak ends up winning on the feet.
Yeah. I'm sure you were pulling your hair out. I mean, even me as an under better, because by the way, I'm taking full responsibility for that best bet. Not how do we end up with the best bet as the under? Because fucking this guy, I'm taking responsibility for that one.
I thought that was going to be an under. I thought it was either going to be like a sub or on Spivak, or he was going to stay on the feet and get knocked out.
Right. And then sure enough, like you said, Spivak's not grappling. So even me on the other side is like going, Spivak, grapple, bro. And then, dude, I don't know if you noticed, literally exactly to the second when the under misses and now we're in over territory, then Elijah all of a sudden pretends it's like the first round of every fight that he's in. Yeah. And that's when he started unloading. I was so pissed. I was like, you motherfucker, you better not finish him right now.
Yeah.
Just doing it was like almost like he was waiting for his corner to go, all right, now you're safe. Go. We cashed her over,
Yeah, these guys, it's almost like I said, when you're going into that new territory, you're fighting a different style. You got it's that 15 minutes goes like this.
Right.
Goes like this, dude. Goes real quick. You got to make your adjustments and reads very quick. It's not like boxing.
Absolutely, man. It was an absolute bloodbath. So we're gonna pay it off, and let's pay off the week before. Again, I appreciate Mike still remembering and reminding me for the shot for the Viklach Gaffarov. Because again, when I win, it's always like on a week off, so it always gets swallowed, right? Because we don't do a show on the weeks off. So I appreciate Mike staying true to that. And Mike would have won both head-to-heads. You know, we originally went Spivak. He had a dog, and he still won that. And then we switched it to where I had the dog and Dan Ige, and he had Costa. So another reason why I can't bump my chest there, I was on the wrong side of the head-to-head. So Mike, I owe you this shot, and I appreciate you paying off yours.
I'm drinking fucking Bacardi. I can't believe I'm drinking this, dude. I hate rum. What is that?
Last of Old Forester. Old Forester. That's right. Jamal. All right.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Oh, let's go, baby. All right. On that note, dry our tears for fears. We got plays for you degenerates that want to use this card to bounce back. God help you. We're gonna help you though. So,
before we jump into that, I want to cover one thing.
Yes.
Sir. So there's a lot of feedback coming in with this Zuffa with Dana White, $15 million for Conor Benn. You got fighters coming out that aren't happy about it. I'll make this quick, guys. Got fighters coming out that aren't happy about it. You got a lot of the fans that are coming out that are saying it's not fair and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I agree. So before I even go into this, I agree. I agree that the fighters need to get paid more. They showed that Conor Benn's $15 million one-fight deal is more than Strickland made in his entire career. So right there, that shows you there's something wrong with the system. But what people aren't telling you with like these content providers and stuff just aren't telling you, and it's no fault of it, they just don't know, is the pay structure, the umbrella is completely different in boxing. Because when you're looking at boxing, you have promoters, okay? You have Golden Boy, you have you got guys like Eddie Hearn, you got Matchroom, you got this one, you got Mayweather Promotion, but all these different promotions. And what they do, they're basically bidding. It's like a bidding war on fights and fighters. It's a bidding war, and the more you bid, the more obviously the money goes up. The fighters get more. So when all's said and done, when negotiations are done with all these different promotions, a fighter can be getting 50 to 60% of the event cap. You know what I mean? Where under the UFC, it's a monopoly. It's one guy. It's one round table. It's one corporation, one umbrella telling you what you're going to make per contract, per fight, what your bonus structure is. There's no negotiating. A fighter can't come out and just sit there and start negotiating. It's what the boss says is what the boss says. Where in boxing, there is no boss. There's different promoters that are saying, you don't want to give us this, we're going to go over here, then we're going to get it this way. Or I can give you this much money for this fight. And the negotiations are just nonstop. So the more you negotiate, the more the money goes up, the more money the fighters get, because the promoters essentially are fighting for, obviously, their pocket, but they're also fighting to get the most money for their fighters they can. That's the difference in the pay scale. Now, the one thing about this fight where people are like, all right, well, Lab, how come a one-fight deal, they're giving them $15 million? These are called steal deals, okay? And basically what it is this is brilliant on their end, because they're not signing these fighters. They're signing them. They're, part of Zuffa Boxing. But these steal deals, if they do 4 steal deals a year, okay, they're going to pay, say, Conor Benn $15 million, whoever he fights. Just say Ryan Garcia. They'll pay him $30 million. Okay, then 3-4 months down the road, they're going to do another steal deal, one-fight deal. That's it. They'll get a big name and a big name. This is their way. Those 4 fights alone will bring in so much attention, so much money, and now all of a sudden Zuffa has major legs. These fighters see they're making the big fights. They're making the fights that people want to see. I need to get in there. And they will continue to do these steal deals where the UFC doesn't have the opportunity to do that. They're like I said, it's one big, your 3-fight contract, 4-fight contract, 5-fight contract. It's a completely different business model. So I agree with the fighters. I agree with MVP and Sean O'Malley talking about it and the fans coming out and talking about it, because it doesn't make sense. When you look at the numbers, it doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, it's just the way the business is run. It's the way the business is run, and it's the way the business is structured. Why boxing makes so much more money than the UFC fighters. So like when you hear these guys complaining about it, yeah, it's okay to complain. I get it. But there's a rhyme and reason behind it. They're just not throwing money at them and saying, take this. They're doing it because there are a big competitive umbrella within these promotions. So that's the way you guys got to look at it. You're looking at one side that has a bunch of different islands, a bunch of different countries trying to like almost like NATO. And on the other side, UFC, you have one monopoly under one umbrella. That's the difference.
Yeah, no, that's a really good explanation. I mean, it should be common sense, in a sense, to a lot of people, just like it's common sense that the fighters deserve more money, like you said at the very top, Mike. But that was a good explanation, man, as far as, again, we don't have to like it. I certainly don't. The fighters don't, but that's a great explanation as far as why it is what it is and why they lean the way they lean, unfortunately, as far as that goes. But great explanation. Let's get to UFC Fight Night 268. UFC Fight Night Mexico City. UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Kavanagh. Originally supposed to face Amir Albazi, Lone'er Kavanagh. I want to say Lone'er Kavanagh because I'm like, sweet, there's finally another Chinese-Irish loner in the space besides me. But no, he's not a loner. He is Lone'er Kavanagh, and he is an underdog. Maybe not as big of an underdog as you might think. Brandon Moreno, of course, will be coming into this as your favorite, the former champ. Neighborhood of -210, which feels a bit generous if you can get that. Under, or I should say, plus 180 to come back on Kavanagh, plus 180 there. Under 4.5 rounds, 5-round affair, of course. Plus 115, over 4.5 rounds. -135. It feels like playable totals. It feels like playable lines, regardless of which side you like in both equations, Mike. But I was saying this earlier. This kind of feels like, a different context, different fight, different styles. But betting line wise, we've seen this narrative. We just saw this narrative last week with Jacoby Smith, where we feel like we're being sharp because we watched the tape and we've seen the sport so much and upset so much that we're like, oh, be on the lookout to fade this guy who should be a big favorite coming into this matchup with a short notice replacement. And the line, although moderate favorite, justifiable favorite it is, Mike, you could argue, even with our trepidatiousness towards Smith, you could argue he should have been much wider. And of course, in hindsight, that looked so, right? It was all for nothing in a sense, right? Are we getting that similar line here? Should Moreno arguably maybe even be wider, or is this respecting that it is a flyweight fight, like heavyweight fights, maybe more like WMMA women's fights? They have their own volatility attached as far as close and competitiveness goes, and maybe the line is reflecting that. What say you, Mike?
Yeah, I do. When I lined this out, I lined it out a little bit more, like a -250. The way I had this lined out, but there's factors involved for me, at least. I don't. Maybe Vegas looks at it different, but when you look at Lone'er Kavanagh, this is a kid. If you want a full gas tank, inject him with a full tank of gas, he can compete with Moreno. He's fast, he's young, he's fresh, he's sharp. He's hungry. And then on the other side, you look at Moreno. Yeah, he's got all the veteran savvy. He's got the level of opposition. He's in Mexico. They're in altitude. And he is who he is, but there's also that little sidebar that you got. Like, he's taken a lot of damage. Like, he's been in some fucking wars, and sometimes Brandon Moreno shows up, and sometimes he just looks a little off. So I kind of factored all that in. But at the end of the day, like, when you're looking at this fight, this is a big mountain to climb for Kavanagh. It's a big mountain to climb. You're fighting, where Moreno is just beloved. He had a full camp for this fight. He is the much more experienced guy. He's been 5 rounds so many times. He's lived in 5-round fights. He's durable. He's got good grappling. He's got very good striking, even though it's a little awkward and odd the way he kind of leans back and kind of pumps into the center line, pumps out of the center line. He's just got so many different tricks in his bag and different looks that he's seen that Kavanagh has not seen yet. You know what I mean? So if this kid's going to come in, I believe, and be competitive for the first couple rounds, but then after a while, for me at least, I just think you're going to see the experience start wearing on him. He's not going to have that toolkit to go into. It's going to be just more the same, where Moreno can find the spot and continue to use it. And if it starts to kind of fray away and not work, he has something else to adjust to. Kavanagh doesn't have all those options yet because he hasn't seen as many looks and as many, situations as Moreno. So I like Moreno in this spot. I think it's going to be competitive early. I do, because like I said, Kavanagh's fast, he's fresh, he's young, he's hungry. But then I said, once that candle starts to burn a little bit, I'm going to start questioning Kavanagh in the deep water. Like, can he last? Is cardio good enough to go that deep with a guy like Moreno? And I think Moreno probably finishes him somewhere in the 4th and 5th round.
Yeah, I think that's very much on the table here. I'm a big fan of Lone'er Kavanagh. That was a real tough beat last time, man. I remember I was just so upset. Like, oh my God. I don't even know if I had him in a parlay, Mike, because again, I have that no betting Charles Johnson fights rule. And you see why with like every fight that he's in, he should be on the top of everybody's no bet list. No offense, Charles Johnson, them just the facts, ma'am. So that's just what it is. But that was tough. That being said, Charles Johnson had some really good ideas, man. That was not a fluky stoppage whatsoever, man. You got to give credit where it's due and analyze it. And you look at it and like, yeah, a guy that's going to give Kavanagh problems is someone who can pressure, work the body, and if not shut down his grappling, be able to grapple with him, right? And Moreno can do all those things, although he is not like a very directionality strong fighter. In fact, he can kind of, I forget which fighter and how you put it, but you kind of described this similar type of movement fighter where they're kind of just okay, like they're not necessarily a back foot fighter and they're not necessarily a pressure fighter. You know, they'll take turns doing each. They kind of just hang out in the middle and bounce back and forth. They feel the flow of the fight. And that is Lone'er Kavanagh almost to a fault, right? Because he can, you know, even though I think body work was a big key and it's hurt him before. Also, the fact is he exited with his hands down, and he's done that plenty of times before too, because he can get a bit swaggy in there, Mike. And you know what I mean. You've seen that. You know, the guys start feeling their flow. They start getting a bit Bobby Green in there, which we'll talk about here on this card, right? They get a little bit of that. But not everybody's Bobby Green, and even Bobby Green shows there are clear limits to it, right? Especially in MMA. And you can't really exit with your hands down out of the pocket like that. So I got to imagine his team's got to been, you know, drilling active exits, you know, getting your head offline, hands return when your hands, you know, move, basic fundamentals, you know, your head moves with your punch, head moves offline after the combination, footwork in toe, all these things. You got to hope they're working on those things. But he has looked not tired, but like, he's feeling the pace, and he will get himself into some high pace fights and be taking some breaths, you know, in round 2 or round 3. There are some windows there. Now, I got to imagine those windows are going to be bigger, Mike, at Elevation in Mexico City. And again, even though he's training and look like he was in shape and he doesn't look like a big flyweight, so he doesn't cut a ton of weight, he still doesn't train at Elevation. He's over in UK. He's having to travel across the pond and go all the way down to Mexico up in Elevation. So, Mike, I don't know how much boxing, you know, of the level that you break it down at goes to Mexico City these days. But what's your experience when breaking down fights there? Do you see that being a factor here as well? And we'll talk about it for the rest of the card, of course. But
as far as the elevation you're talking
yes,
about,
sir. Yeah,
yeah.
yes, sir.
Well, the thing with the elevation and thing with boxing, right, is that, you know, people don't understand, like, boxing is, you can't take a professional boxer. Like, you could take someone like Adrian Yanez or like the kid Korea that we just saw, that the boxing, we're like, oh, his boxing's great. But when we talk about boxing that's great in the MMA realm, it doesn't compete with the boxing in professional boxing. Like, it's a completely different animal. There's so many different traps and landmines that you set in boxing. But for MMA standards, some of these guys are fantastic. The Rob Fonts of the world. But what people don't understand is you could throw 50 shots in a round, and if you land 40 of them, okay, that's a very high clip.
Sure.
Okay, and you'll be tired. Of course, you'll go back to the corner in elevation. You'll be tired. But if you throw 40 strikes in a round and you only land 5, you're going to be much more tired, because the you missing those shots, you swinging that air and go full follow through is much more tiring than actually hitting the target. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it does play a factor. It does play a big factor, especially when guys are tired and they get sloppy and they just start looping punches and they're landing 1 in 5. And it's like, yeah, it just makes you more and more and more and more tired. You feel like your lungs are just filling up with fire. So that's why, you know, when you match up fights like this with guys that are strikers in elevation, you want precision strikers, you want counter strikers, you want guys who are not wasting any movement. So, yeah, of course, it plays a huge factor.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of missing because, you know, there's a lot of big wind-up kicks. And to Lone'er Kavanagh's credit, he also likes people missing kicks. That's where that swagger comes in that I was talking about. He has a lot of that Muay Thai swagger. Well, he'll do those lean backs, right? And the thing about the lean backs, what's available? Your legs and your body. I think the body's going to be more troubling for Kavanagh because of his history. And we've seen Moreno work the body. In fact, I even called for a body shot stoppage when he fought Cháirez in the rematch. Even I called the specific switch kick that he throws is going to be live, because the wrestle boxing dipping propensities of Cháirez going to dip right into that lead kick. Now, Kavanagh doesn't have those propensities. In fact, they both have very good lead kicks, but Kavanagh has deceptive leg kicks. So, Mike, I think he's going to be able to do damage with his leg kicks early. I think even though he could stand a jab a whole hell of a lot more, Kavanagh, that is, and I'm sure you agree with me, Mike, he does have some wicked pinpoint crosses down the center, and his kicks are probably a little bit better than Moreno's. Now, as the fight goes on, I'm not willing to say that, Mike, but I do think he's the more dynamic and more effective kicker. And we've seen, like Moreno, even in a series with Davis and Figueiredo, they actually took turns taking the kicking initiative. Figueiredo took it early in the series and was able to find success with it. and Moreno was able to kind of take it back in some of the fights that he won. And I could see Lone'er Kavanagh taking the kicking initiative. Now, ultimately, no matter what condition Brandon Moreno's in, and let's be honest, even if Tatsuro Taira, let's not take away from Tatsuro Taira, he probably was going to win that fight, let's just say. Okay, no issues with that, Mike, right? But the stoppage from Manic Mark Smith, of course, was a bit premature. So it's not like he got knocked out. And now it's like, so we could be at that point with Moreno, but I don't know if it's at that point. So basically what I'm saying, Mike, is this card actually, I've got 6 live bets potentially to give you guys, and they're tiered. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And Moreno is a tier 1 with another guy as far as live bets I would look at. Again, minus 210, actually, if you're able to get it that low, is actually not as bad, considering most people like me and Mike lined at minus 250, maybe getting inflated publicly to a minus 300, right, is what we were maybe expecting. That being said, I think you get a better line on a lot of these fighters. And again, you got to be careful playing this live game because you got the, in the background, in the third act, the river, the 5th card in Texas Hold'em is the altitude we're talking about. But Mike, what do you think about that? Looking at Moreno, maybe actually waiting to bet him live in the spot.
Yeah, I have no problems with that. Like I said, there's something to be said. There's a pro and a con with both sides. There's a pro for Moreno that he is a full camp. He's home. He's comfortable. But then there's also a con to that because now you're training for kind of a different style. You're training for a little bit more of the fog is out there. Like you're not sure. Your kind of game plan has to change. You're fighting a little bit more on instinct. For Kavanagh, it's the same kind of thing, right? Yeah, he's coming on a short notice, kind of, sort of, this and that. But also, he's coming in a little bit looser. Is there pressure on him? Sure. But there's also a looseness to him because he's coming in and kind of saving the day. So I think both sides really have their pros and cons.
Yep. And to mention, Kavanagh is that young age, Mike, where we talk about all the time, where if you're going to project jumps and skills, even though we're back in the Moreno spot, I don't think either of us are expecting anything new from Moreno, right? Whereas Kavanagh, he's at that age where he can surprise you.
And it's also, what have you done for me lately? Dana White is a
Sure.
very what have you done for me lately guy. So Kavanagh's go, you don't think they made a deal with him, saying, listen, man, we take this fight short notice. Don't worry about it. You're going to. Dana White is very would have that. Why do you think Kevin Holland's so beloved? That guy can lose 10 straight and they'll keep him because he's done so much for the company.
Absolutely. Now, folks, I'm probably going to have faux plays out like I've done before when I take weeks off. This is going to be a week off, both with the card and the ass kicking that I'm still licking my wounds from. But in that slate, which will probably cash because I'm not playing it, Mike, I will suggest some pre-flop round flyers on Moreno 3, 4, and 5 because you're still getting great numbers on it despite him being the favorite. And yeah, I just think that's too much value to pass up. Let's go to the co-main event, shall we? We got Marlon Chito Vera, Ecuador, versus David Martinez, the doctor from Mexico. Vera is going to be your 260 underdog, the minus 310 favorite. David Martinez, I don't think he opened that high, but he did open as a moderate favorite, I want to believe. The over 2.5 rounds, minus 400. Perhaps that Marlon Vera durability, hold that note, is baked into that one. Mike, under 2.5, plus 315. You almost want to go contrarian, right, with fighters that haven't been getting finished lately, getting finished for the first time, right? Nora Cornhole, Dan Ige, just alone on last card, right? Which was crazy because those were my 2 split props, and those were the 2 of the fights that were most favored in my defense to go the distance. And those were some of the only fights to get a finish, right? So maybe we're a little bit of recency bias on getting our world turned upside down, Mike. But it feels like maybe this could be, would you really be surprised if one of David Martinez's lancing right hands as he leaps in, knocks out Chito Vera? Would we have seen crazier things in MMA before? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I made a promise to myself a couple fights ago about Marlon Vera, and do I think he can win this fight? Absolutely. I always say it all the time. I say, if you have durability that can carry you through a fight, you always have a chance. You know what I mean? And that's one thing he has. He has insane durability. But the problem is that durability is going to keep you in the fight, but you have to display some kind of offense. And over and over and over, I've been caught in the trap where listening to his interviews, and he's like, I know what I got to do this time. I gotta get started earlier. I'm a late starter. I got to start going. I'm going to go to, and you're like, all right, I'm going to buy in this time. This time I'm going to buy in. And he does it again. 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 And he's become to the point now where he's a durable fighter. that is going to come on late, and he's either going to finish you and erase the cards, or he's going to lose on the cards. That's just really what Marlon Vera is becoming at this point. I can't trust him anymore. Do I think that line is ridiculous? I do. Anytime Marlon Vera's fighting, you most likely he's going 15 minutes with a guy who's kind of new like David Martinez, but David Martinez brings volume. He brings offense. He's not afraid to kind of push the pace. What are you going to do, Marlon? Are you going to sit there and you just going to throw a pop shot here and there and eat a shot and look at him and wave him in and not? I just can't do it. I can't get behind him. I would never bet David Martinez at this price because, like I said, at the end of the day, a high octane Marlon Vera, if it ever appears, probably wins this fight. But I can't do it. I promised myself I would never bet Marlon Vera again, and I'm sticking to that. I'm not betting Martinez, but Marlon Vera just fights a half a fight offensively. If you're lucky to get a full half a fight from him, like a real good offensive, good output half a fight, that's not enough for me at this point. So I'm going David Martinez. I'm going to say David Martinez 29-28 decision.
So I don't blame you for that attitude, and I don't even disagree with what you said, right? Because how many people have been burnt by Vera, and I've been burnt by him too. Perhaps not recently because it just feels like he's just kind of I'm used to the staring contest every time that he's going to get in there. And Jason Perillo, as much as I love Jason, just going to be screaming at him to throw, right? And shout out to the heavy hands guys. They made a joke, and it still holds true because I went to Cheeto's Instagram. They're like, Cheeto's a guy where like you go to his Instagram and all he's doing is running miles. He's doing more cardio than anybody on the roster, Mike. Yet he fights like he's terrified of gassing and won't throw.
Yeah.
It's so maddening. But I also see two-way action on this. I like David Martinez when this got announced. We talk about this a lot where it's like UFC knows who's healthy or who's short. They know if they're calling you on short notice for a reason. And I'm not really big into this narrative, by the way. I'm the last guy you hear using this narrative. This narrative is probably very common because it's used in most betting breakdowns where they go, this is who the UFC wants to win. And I'm just, you rarely hear me say that, right? But this is a clear case of who the UFC wants to win. The way they set up this matchup, this was one of those classic ones where it seemed like there was they did their classic thing where they might have announced it early without having both sides sign. You know that trick, Mike? And you usually know it because one fighter is usually pretty vocal once the image announcement circulation starts coming around. And then when you see them eventually buckle to it, again, you know who's boss at the end of the day. And that doesn't mean it's going to go a certain way, but man, is that on its ceiling. And David Martinez is not like blow me away. He's going to be the next champion or anything like that. But I am impressed from what I've seen. I do think he is one of Mexico's better prospects. I do think he's got good power, excellent leg kicks. Again, there's some funny, we'll get to the penis breakdown, folks, Damian Penis, but there's some funny grading the winners you can read of mine. And if you go back to read this one where he fought Xavier Franklin and he beat him up with leg kicks, I was like, man, he tried to turn Xavier Franklin into Professor X with them leg kicks. That's probably insensitive. I'm sorry. But I actually like Martinez here. And you could either throw, him or Moreno in this leg of the parlay. I've got a 3-leg parlay coming your guys' way, and it's got a special name at the end of it that I'll wait to drop on you guys.
Boy.
I know, me, I like the alliteration. I'll just leave it at that. But Martinez would be a parlay leg. But the two-way action I talk about, Mike, is I actually like Chito Vera's points handicap. I think that honestly both could cash because I don't see Martinez finishing them, and I say that now, right? But again, when I bet these points handicaps of these overs, people who don't get finished have gotten finished recently. So I'm trepidatious, folks, when I say that. But I don't believe Chito gets finished, Mike. And even low output Chito, he's got at least one round that he can win here, regardless of any home cooking or whatever, which I believe, again, it's going to be mainly the judges, the traveling judges, and then some local judges as well. By the way, plus 110, you can find his points handicap if that tickles you.
Yeah, I listen. Anytime the guys, like I said, if he wins, it'll probably be round 3.
Yeah, there's that too. So if there's anybody you need to finish. And again, Chito, he's not on my live bet, but he used to be a live better, right? Because he was
100%, especially if it was 1-1 going into the third.
Yeah, or remember he was getting all those second round finishes, so you just bet Chito
that
flop
too,
2 or 3, and then you look to bet him live after he like gives away round 1 like he does in every fight.
Yep.
But again, you can't trust him for that anymore. Hence, he doesn't make my live betting slate. You know who does though? Possibly someone in this next fight. We have Daniel Zellhuber. The German from the Three Amigos must have stayed in Mexico, Mike, and made a kid. We got Daniel Zellhuber minus 500. Comeback on Bobby King Green, one of our favorites, Mike. We got plenty of love for Bobby King Green, regardless of our picks. He comes back at plus 375 over 2.5 rounds, minus 125 under 2.5 rounds, plus 105. Mike, what do you got for this one, buddy?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because with a card like this where it's completely stacked against you, like there's a lot of chalk. Like it's not going to be a huge blueprint this week, but I could see people looking for those darlings, and I think Bobby Green's a guy that people are going to look at as kind of a darling. There's a couple more on here that I could see targeting, but I think people will. But at the end of the day, you guys got to also remember something like, when you look at plus 375, is that what he is? He's plus 375, right?
Yes.
Yeah, plus 375. When you're looking at that, it seems like, oh my God, this is fantastic, and you're going to take a shot. But at the end of the day, like you also got to do your due diligence on it. And you really got to make sure, like at the end of the day, a loss is a loss. You're still going to lose that unit or 2 units, whatever you put on it, if he loses. So it's not only about the number, it's also about the matchup. And I don't think Zellhuber is very good. Like I really, really don't. I don't think Zellhuber is very good. I think people made a little bit more of him than what he is. I don't think he's that smart in the cage. I think he's got a lot of attributes that he doesn't know how to use. Sometimes he does, almost like Stefan Struve used to do. He says sometimes how do you know how to use his range, and then sometimes Gaethje would just break the fray and knock you out. You know what I mean? So that's why I see Zellhuber. Like it's really all dependent on, does he understand what his range can actually do to a fighter in the cage on Saturday night? Because if he does, then I think Bobby Green's going to have a really hard time just in Bobby Green's style, the way he's kind of in there with his hands down. He's going to be eating jabs. He's not going to be able to get inside. I think Zellhuber can kind of skate to a victory in this fight. But if he doesn't know how to use his range in this fight, Bobby Green can make this interesting. You know what I mean? And, there's a lot of lines on here that are indicating to me that they're trying to pull you in to take Bobby Green. You got the plus 375. You got the points handicap at plus 7.5. That's sitting at only almost even money. So it's almost like they're like, come. I want you guys to take this because there's not a lot of darlings on this card, and we need to bait you into something. This could be that fight, but it also can be that fight where Bobby Green is live. And so my approach to this, probably, if you guys wanted to have juice on this, I mean, I live betting. Yeah, I mean, how much more of a line do you want for live betting, though? I mean, if you're giving a plus 375 pre-flop, and if you think you're going to do it, you might as well give it a shot. I'm personally probably staying away from it just because I'm a big believer in range. Bobby Green is a frustrating fighter at times, too. Sometimes, like, he'll sit there, you're like, stop talking, do something, like it's a close round. And like I said, if Zellhuber goes into the cage on Saturday night and understands what his range is capable of, I think he could just skate to victory here. So I'm going Zellhuber. I don't like the line. I do think there's money on Bobby Green, but I do think you should be cautionary, with what they're trying to feed you here.
Yep. Hey, shout out to my guy MMA Plays in the chat. I'll touch on you and touch on you. Phrasing. Easy, Daniel. Won't end up in the files. I'll touch on that question as well as some others that I got via Twitter, Mike, in a little bit here. But I love what you said. I don't disagree. I will answer the one thing on why he could be worth a look at live, because I have him in my second tier. Not my top tier, not my bottom tier, but my second tier of 2 names that you could look at live. And although that's an incredibly valid point, how much do you want? You might as well, if you really want to bet them as your darling, just sprinkle, not a lot. You don't have to go to a lot of 375. Why don't you sprinkle a little pre-flop or just not at all, right? Why live when that much? I will say why a bit, because I think Zellhuber, now I'm somebody who was high on him, right? And you want to be careful, right? Like, what have you done for me lately? And what did we just say with guys like Kavanagh, and Zellhuber is in the same range where it's like, he can make some jumps, right? Like, he had a really bad performance. You could argue he is due to turn a corner. If he is going to turn a corner, he's going to do it now. He's going to do it against a veteran whose durability is kind of, gone and waning, against a guy like Bobby Green, a guy who he should be able to have at range with his jab and his kicks. But that last fight against Michael Johnson, it felt like he was like pared down to, like, I don't want to be hyperbolic, Mike, but it felt like he was pared down to basically like 2 tools and tactics. And the southpaw stance as well was also giving him problems, which he never, I believe, had to have a UFC level southpaw until that point. And Bobby Green is a switch fighter, but he does fight a lot from southpaw. So I guess what I would say is, if you did look, the reason why I put him as a possible second tier to look live is because you want to see that, okay, is he going to get iced because he's old as far as the Bobby Green side, right? That's what you're paying for. And the other thing I would argue that you're paying for is to see, okay, how is Zellhuber coming out and fighting? Is he showing improvements? Is he fighting smart? Is he being like the guy who Dan Tomlin and others used to think he was going to be? Because again, the door is not completely closed on him if we're being fair, right? There's still more than a crack there, I would argue, even though I haven't been high on him, right? You want to be careful into that trap. So I too will pick Zellhuber here. I too will stay away, Mike, but he does make my second tier live. And although he doesn't make a points handicap bet, they do have his points handicap at plus 225. I don't know what you think of that number or if that tickles anybody in the audience, but I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. It's kind of wacky. These lines on this fight is kind of wacky, the props and everything. So I'm sure it's going to be a highly targeted fight. I would just advise you guys to be very careful.
All right, let's go to before we go to the next fight, I want to say MMA Play says Loney has amazing fast striking. Moreno has more routes to victory here. Is going to look for him to utilize his grappling en route to a mid-fight sub. I actually like Lone'er Kavanagh's grappling, but we haven't seen him from on bottom. So if Moreno can get on top and be the one on top, that could be very interesting in MMA Plays. My other guy, Jeffrey S. from Twitter, he just asked me kind of off topic, but I'll answer real quick. He said, what do you think about Costa? I'm guessing Paulo Costa moving up to light heavyweight, chances the fight will get called off have to be like 75%. The second part, I feel like, yeah, it's probably 75%. You can count on Paulo Costa not being there, hence me not getting too excited. And as far as him at light heavyweight, I think that's probably where he should belong. Mike, any quick thoughts on that before we push?
Yeah, I think he fits light heavyweight well, but we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, right. All right, let's go to the next fight. We got my guy over here. He looks like a mix between Poatan Pineda and one of the hitman from Breaking Bad. If you watch that show, Mike, we got Édgar Cháirez versus Felipe Bunes. Cháirez minus 355. That killer. The comeback on Bunes plus 290, under 2.5 rounds, minus 125, over 2.5 rounds, plus 105, which is interesting for a flyweight fight. But these guys bring the action, and you could argue Bunes is more of the do or die category. Hence, that probably being reflected in the line. Cháirez, also a very underrated guy. You know, he had really good moments against Josh Van, which I know a decent amount of fighters do with the way Josh Van kind of fights sometimes, right? But I really like his calf kicks. This guy will, he will also punch the body and have some pocket boxing as well. Big guy. Looks like he's really tried to improve his grappling. Definitely not like a strong A game for Cháirez, but I don't know if it's enough where, he's going to get taxed by Bunes here. But Mike, I'm kind of giving away that I agree with the favorite to say the least, but what are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I like Cháirez here. When you look at Bunes, he's a fun fighter, right? He's fun, but they're both fun. I think Édgar Cháirez is just more consistent. I think he's more dangerous for the full 15 minutes. When you look at Bunes is a guy who is 1-5 anytime the fight hits round number 3. So I mean, that just tells you something. He literally just fades. Where Cháirez is a little bit more consistent, and I like his game a little bit better. So I think this is a fight Cháirez absolutely should win.
Yep. Yeah. And not to be an ageist or whatever, but that durability, and staying power, I don't imagine it gets better as a flyweight when you're 36, right? Which is Bunes' age. That's something that's probably, I imagine, is getting baked into the line. But baked into the line or not, I actually like Cháirez as one of the chalk legs. So add him to Martinez or Moreno if you prefer that. I'll give you lines for both, but I'm for my special parlay. I'll give you the third leg toward the end here, folks. But we got Martinez and Cháirez. That's all I got for this fight. So let's move on to the next fight, shall we? We've got Imanol Rodriguez versus Kevin Borjas. Rodriguez is going to be your favorite, minus 450 with the comeback on Borjas, plus 350, over 1.5, minus 145, under 1.5, plus 125. Mike, I'll take the lead on this one, and even though I'm very curious to hear what you have to say for this fight, because I like both fighters. Imanol Rodriguez, obviously, he lost off tough. He lost on tough, and he won there too. And whether you're looking at his loss or you're looking at the fighter who beat him, all of a sudden it doesn't age as bad after we saw this guy in the Contender Series. Now he does come with a lot of hype from DC. To his point, there's a lot of prospect material in Imanol Rodriguez. He actually was on the chopping block for last year's prospect list because he was one of the names I had under there. He didn't quite make it, and then since he was already got Contender Series, I don't count guys with Contender Series for my prospect list. I'm getting people that are going to be on their way to Contender Series to give you guys a more of an edge as far as who's up and coming. But Rodriguez, yeah, he is legit. However, I wanted to say this last week, Mike, even though, again, Jacoby Smith actually showed out, right? And I will say Jacoby Smith, like Imanol Rodriguez of DC's hype prospects, these are actually guys with like legit wrestling backgrounds more than the other ones. And these are more guys that fit their weight class, unlike Torres Finney or Darren Wynn before, right? And those kind of appeal prophetic. But people say just because DC backs a guy, they act like it's done. Bet him. He's going to win. Not really. And they don't mention the Darren wins, right? They probably won't mention the Torres Finneys that we called ahead of time, Mike, right? But Jacoby Smith, justified, right? And Imanol Rodriguez, whether he wins or lose here, the excitement is justified. However, Kevin Borjas, and I'm sure being a fan of boxing, you see the body punching and the tough. This guy Peruvian, I believe he is, right? Yeah. No. He's Peruvian. Yep. Tough Peruvian guy. Shout out to former host of the show, CJ Saptic. We know he's got the love for the Peruvians there, and they fight for your money. They're tough as burgers, as Brad Pitt in Fight Club likes to say. And for that reason, Borjas, even though I'm picking Rodriguez here, Mike, I'm long-winded giving my end. Curious to have yours in a second, but Borjas is the top of the top tier for my live bets I'll be looking at, despite picking Rodriguez, in case it is parlay trap. And if Rodriguez comes out looking as good as he does, he tends to get it done early. So he either gets it done early or Borjas survives, and you've got an even better line on him than he is already, which is already a good line, granted. What do you think of that analysis, Mike? Feel free to disagree and shoot me down, buddy.
No, I like it. I was very confused when I saw this line, if I'm being honest with you, because when you look at Borjas's resume, yeah, you see a couple losses and stuff like that, but the kid's good. Like, the kid's very composed. I mean, I don't know if you remember the Ronaldo Rodriguez fight, how just calm and loose his shoulders were. Like, when you watch somebody box and somebody strike, you could tell by their shoulders if they're tense, if they're loose. Like, he just looks so loose, so confident. And that shows a lot. Like, yes, you may not have that performance every night, but at least that shows, look, he's capable of doing that. Like, he's capable of that. And when I look at Rodriguez, like, I guess I'm impressed with him. I mean, he does some nice things, but he does kind of chase a little bit, which I don't like. Like, if you see him near the end of rounds, or he gets a little overzealous. I don't think his striking's all like fantastic. I think it's good, but I don't think it's like this great fundamental striking. Like, he does leave a lot of room for openings and stuff like that. And the way he hunts sometimes just seems a little bit fall into someone like Borjas's hands, where someone like Borjas can, if he stays calm like he did in a Rodriguez fight, he will be able to find openings on that. And you could walk somebody onto a punch at that point. So I think this line I'm very, very surprised on this line. I mean, I think this fight's going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm going to go out on a limb here because there's not a lot of dogs. I'm going to pick Borjas by split decision. I'll be surprised maybe if they give him that, especially. But I don't know, man. I just think this is a fight. If Borjas can slow it down, not allow him to hunt so much and make him pay for it when he comes in, like, I'm not super sold on Rodriguez. Like, I've seen more of Borjas. I've seen a little bit more of his work, what he can do, what he can't do. Rodriguez is good when he's hunting, but what happens if he becomes a little bit of the hunted? You know what I mean? So I'll take a shot on Borjas here by like split decision.
I like that, actually, because I was going to say for the round robin leg, I was going to have Borjas in there either by decision outright, which, by the way, dude, you're getting plus 800s out there for Borjas by decision. Like,
yeah.
And if it goes that way, it's going to be, that's how, he's lost or it's went to splits before when Rodriguez has gone to decision, perhaps due to the chasing you talk about, right? And split decision props, which again, it's going to be a wacky regional market we're in. So those are going to be live regardless if it goes to the decision or Borjas straight up if you want to get greedy with that big number. I don't blame anybody.
That is such a big, I mean, am I wrong for saying that's a ridiculous number?
It is. It's a stupid number. It almost makes me want to change my pick, which I don't want to do that either, just because, again, here's what I wrote down, right? And I shared this with you, Mike. I write down like a lesson from each one, and I forget to read it out here. But my lesson in the last card. Here's the sentence I wrote. I wrote, big odds / odds in general can ruin perception. And that's a two-way street, right? We got burned. A lot of people got burned by it in the chalk way. But you can also get burned going the other way, even if we are justified with what we're saying, that this is too big of a line, right?
I'll tell you what the two bets that are piquing my interest right now already is.
Yeah.
The over 1.5 at minus 140. I mean, that's that's interesting. The 140 over 1.5 rounds. Like I said, if Borjas can control that pace and tame that tiger a little bit and just drag him into, that's interesting. And then I'm not saying I'm going to take it, but plus 3.5 at plus 165.
I was just looking at that. Yeah, that's a decent number.
That's a decent number.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you're just banking on him not to get finished, and that's live as hell. As long as he doesn't get finished, which I believe he's been finished before, but
he has.
It takes a lot. It takes a decent amount, So and those haven't exactly aged the poorest. So cool. I'm glad we're despite maybe technically different picks, I think we're in agreement there largely on where the betting value is in that fight. So let's go to the main card opener between Santiago Luna, who I'm looking forward to seeing more of because we still haven't seen a ton, against Angel Pacheco. Of course, this is going to be, I believe, off my top of my head, Mike, the biggest, widest odds of the card. We've got Luna, of course, your favorite, minus 625 comeback on Pacheco, plus 450, over 1.5, minus 110, under 1.5, minus 110. I was skeptical, wanted to see more of Luna, didn't get to see too much, but he came through in his last fight. But Mike, I'm real curious on what you think of what we've seen so far of Luna. Almost more than what you think of this fight, but of course, tell us what you think of this fight.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I haven't seen, like, when we saw Santiago Luna, he got rocked. What was it, like, first punch of the fight? He got put on his ass, and then he came back and he ended up winning the fight, and that's all fine and great. But it's like, okay, like, I need to see much, much, much more to give him that kind of a line. You know what I mean? I do like some of these things I have seen with him, but like I said, this is just like too unproven for me. Like, I never jump into these fights with these unproven guys with minus 450s, nobody deserves that.
Yes,
nobody deserves that at this level. Nobody, guys. So don't always look at the number and be like, well, here's two debutantes or whatever, and look, he's or 1-0 and 0-1, and this guy's a minus 4. They don't deserve that. Like, Santiago Luna does not deserve this line. Am I going to pick him here? Yes, I'm going to pick him here. But would I go near that with a 10-foot pole? Absolutely not. But I will pick him.
No way. And the worst part is Pacheco is not even like somebody who, by the way, I mean, if you were gun to your head and you had $20, I'd be like, if it's just $20, just throw it on the dog.
Yeah, 100%.
So I'm not trying to like steer anyone away from that kind of fun, by the way. But what I will say is that Pacheco's, I almost get it, because he's a guy where it's just like the only way he can win this fight for me is a Homer Simpson performance where Luna punches himself out at altitude. And Pacheco, one of his things, because he's got the Jose Medina treatment, right? He's tough, durable, hasn't won shit for the Contender Series or anything, but Dana and the brass decided to give him a chance. He was a short notice fill-in, like, what was it, 2 years ago? And you could tell this was the makeup fight, right? This was the fight where it was like, get into the UFC, You lost in good enough graces to get a short notice call, and you know how the UFC works. They're going to give you another fight. This is the other fight, and of course it's a setup fight, after this long. So I'm going to pick Luna here, but yeah, I will have no action on this fight whatsoever, Mike.
Agreed.
All right, let's go to the prelims and we'll kick it up even faster. Speaking of Jose Medina level fighters, we've got Jose Medina facing Ryan Gandra. I imagine another big wide spread. Here we go. Yep, this was the other big line. Maybe even bigger. Gandra minus 725. Comeback on Medina plus 525. Over 1.5 plus 100. Under 1.5 minus 120. You can imagine what Medina's style is, even because you really didn't need much behind just a couple sentences I said before about toughness being his main feature. But before I throw it off to Mike, I will say about Ryan Gandra, obviously coming off a headlining win off the Contender Series. It is weird though, because it was a fight where you really can't judge, and people will probably judge it harsh one way or the other, where they'll go, oh yeah, he's like what we see in the betting line. This guy should be a deserved favorite because he came off the Contender Series in a headlining spot and wiped the guy out, right? Whereas other people, which is more smartly so, to be like, well, what do we know? The guy he wiped out did not look great in his performance, which is true. Although that is my guy, Trent Miller, who did make a prospects list years back under my guy, Roman Eisbell. But the important caveat to remember is that fight, he literally took it under like 24 to 36 hours or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And there are certain caveats, like something maybe I should have given more credit to. And I mentioned it before, but I forgot to mention it last week, Mike, with Jordan Levitt, where it's like, yeah, he's 0-2 to southpaws, but they're grappling. And one of them was to Chase Hooper, where he found out right before he was going to walk out that he was going to be a dad, and his head was not even in the fight. So there are certain performances where it's like you don't want to judge him too harshly on, and or you don't want to judge him too well on in this case, maybe, right? Because even though he was facing a good guy, that good guy did not have preparation and did not look good whatsoever going out there. And I'm just being honest, right? And I got love for my guy Trent. But how much can you really take from it one way or the other, I guess is what I'm saying. Does he deserve to be the favorite? Yeah. Am I going to pick him to win? Yeah, but I don't see any angles on this fight, and I'm not too bullish on any opinions for this fight, Mike. Does that make sense? And are you bullish on anything here?
Yeah, nah. Listen, Medina is just tough. You know what I mean? But this is what the one spot that I could see this flipping upside down on its head for people that are like really backing Gandra hard, which I don't think you should.
Right.
Is that the one thing I did see with him on film that I do like, but it's always worked in his favor, is he knows how to finish. Like when he smells a finish, he will come in and he will just let his hands go. And that's you want to see that with a fighter. You don't want a fighter to admire his work. You know what I mean? Like so many times you'll see a guy stun somebody. I think it happened last week. Actually, he had somebody had somebody rocked. Wasn't it Philip Rowe? It was Philip Rowe last week. Philip Rowe
probably
with a shot and just sat there and admired his work. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like,
yeah.
So Gandra, the one thing I will say about him, he won't admire his work. He'll go in there and he'll throw hands. Now the problem with that is if Medina's durability holds up during that exchange, during when he's emptying the tank trying to finish him and he can't get it done, what happens then? You know what I mean? So that's the flip side of that coin. What happens then? What if Medina takes all these shots and Gandra just can't get him out of there and all of a sudden he just blew his wad? So that's the one thing that concerns me a little bit about this fight. But like I said, I think Medina's in there. He's kind of like a human punching bag that's just fun to watch and see how much a licking he could take. And I think that Gandra's going to get the best of him. So I will go Gandra, but like you, I don't want no interest in this fight. Maybe the over.
Yeah, maybe the over, or I don't even know if you're going to get a good live one if he's just taking a beating,
Yeah,
I think the odds makers are too smart not to lower it too much, so I don't think you're going to get anything there. And last thing I'll say is Gandra has been a decision as an amateur and pro a couple of times, Mike, but again, none of those was at elevation. So different animal. So Homer Simpsons are on the table for these last two fights, but we're not picking that to happen. We'll pick the chalk favorites and stay away, it sounds like, Mike. Let's go to Macy Chiasson versus Ailin Perez. Interesting fight. We've got Perez minus 185, Chiasson plus 160, over 2.5 minus 325, under 2.5 plus 265. So this is interesting. I always feel like Chiasson is more live than she is because of her physicality and potential. And we've all been there, Mike. We end up like picking fighters on potential over the actual evidence they're giving us. And eventually the evidence outweighs what we think their potential is, right? And Chiasson is definitely on or arguably past, depending on how your mileage varies, that chopping block. So even though I squint real hard, Mike, at trying to justify Ailin Perez as a minus 185 favorite that I have faith in over anybody, much less just a justifiable favorite, even in this fight, that being said, for every positive that I think about Chiasson, the consistency has obviously been the huge gaping hole in her game, and that makes it very tough to trust because we've seen fights turn on a dime, even without the cardio. Talking about being hurt by freakish stuff, we've also got the cardio in play. So if she doesn't finish early or do something early, I feel like Perez, as disjointed as her game can be at sometimes, I think she can have enough physicality to still roll downhill. And I have her in my 2-tier live look. So she's with Bobby Green as far as not top of my live looks. She's like second, as far as potential live lines I might look at depending on how the fight goes. Otherwise, I probably really want nothing to do with this fight either way. Mike, do you have a side? Do you have a strong opinion here?
I don't have a strong opinion, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going with Macy in this fight just for the mere fact that I think I might be still trapped in that web that you're talking about. Higher hopes than what she's showing us, but the proof is in the pudding. She hasn't really showed as much, but when she does show us things, she reminds me, when she's on her game, she reminds me of the female version of Tim Means. That's the best way I could describe Macy Chiasson, right? It's a good comparison.
Yeah.
She fights nasty. She got nasty elbows. She's got a good clinch game and stuff like that. But it's getting her there. It's like it's just getting her to that point to step into the cage and become that Tim Means, and like you said, perfect statement you said about Perez that her game just isn't. What did you say? It's not fundamentally. It's not tied into.
It's disjointed.
Disjointed. It's very, very disjointed, and she's either going to, like you said, run downhill, or Macy Chiasson can keep that fight disjointed by whether it's an early knee up the middle, gashes her with an elbow, something that's going to make a statement really, really early. She's going to, like, you're right. Macy Chiasson has to make a statement really, really early. But I'm not sold on Perez. I'm not sold on Chiasson. I'm not sold on anyone. So if you're giving me a female MMA fight with a girl who, yes, her record looks a little shoddy. She is very inconsistent, but she is a little bit more. She's the bigger, more like kind of brutal style fighter. You're giving me her at plus money, or you're going to give me the dog, like on a card that's starving for dogs. I see no reason why Macy Chiasson can't win this fight. So I'll lean Macy, but no real conviction.
My take is the same, Mike, but when you put it that way and I look at that, I don't think I picked any dogs officially, and I have one coming. But you know what? I might change my pick too, but if I do, folks, that doesn't change my analysis on this fight. I will say this though, this is irrespective of side, Mike. The total actually caught my eye here. This feels like a little too volatile of a woman, even for a woman's fight, to be put in a plus 263 or higher under prop, under 2.5 rounds at elevation with the volatility of Chiasson, where even when she's winning and looking good, she can still get finished.
Yeah.
So that is a little tempting. Not that I'm going to fire on that, but that does catch my eye a bit.
Yeah. There are spots on this card. You guys, I mean, like I said, the spots that you're looking on this card, they're not like your total significant spots. Like, you're easy. You're going to have to look and find, but there are those gems that you can find.
All right. Another big favorite spot, Mike, coming up next. I don't know if this is going to fit the same prognosis, if you will, as we just gave, but we've got Cristian Quiñonez as a big favorite over Kris Moutinho, who at this point I imagine is being used to being a big dog. But we've got Cristian Quiñonez at minus 700, which kind of just blows me away to see. I had to look and make sure we're looking at the same Cristian Quiñonez here. We are. And the comeback on Moutinho, plus 500, which not as surprising, but again, within context, curious what you have to say, Mike. Over 1.5 rounds, minus 140, under 1.5 rounds, plus 120. Interesting. I believe Moutinho does fight a bit out of the southpaw stance, although it won't really matter considering who Quiñonez has fought at a higher level, although Quiñonez does have some deceptive experience there. You could argue, I guess, the same for Moutinho, but it is that durability. He is the traveling fighter, stock low. What have you done for me lately? I get all that, but this line just seems stupid wide for me. And Mike, before I hand it to you, I will say that bottom tier, it's got Moutinho in it. You know what I'm saying? It's got Moutinho. You can put Medina in there if you wanted to as well. He's about at that same level, but I did put Moutinho as keep an eye out, because I'm certainly not touching the favorite here. What do you got, Mike?
Yeah, no, I'm not going near this. I mean, between the two of them, they're 0-5 in their last 5 fights. You know what I mean? So, not really much meat on the bone there. I will say this though. When you look at Moutinho, he made his name from being a punching bag in a loss. That's like really how he made his name. You know what I mean? Right. Like, he came in, he fought Sean O'Malley. Who the hell is this guy? And he just ate an absorbent amounts of shots. And the fight probably wouldn't have been stopped if the ref didn't step in. Like, he did not want to quit no matter the beating it. Then you were like, wow, this kid's got some freaky durability. And he gets knocked out of his next 2 fights in the first round. So you got to wonder about there. Quiñonez is the same kind of guy. Like, he's not really anything good, but I've seen him get out of some really fucking bizarre situations where you're like, wow, dude. Like, I remember he was caught in an armbar. Who caught him in that armbar? Somebody caught him in a nasty armbar, dude. And he was able to like finagle his way out of it. Like,
oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? He did it eye side, and it was such a weird armbar. And I was like, wow, bro, how the fuck did he get out of that? And his arm was like dead to rights, and he ended up getting in an advantageous position. So this is a fun fight. Like, that's where I look at it. It's one of those fights on the cards are thrown in there as a fun fight. But I got to go Quiñonez. There's nothing that Moutinho does offensively that impresses me.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm going with Cristian Quiñonez here too. He's, of course, a lot of the Mexicans. They all been training up here, regardless of late replacements or not for their opponents, Mike. Like we talked about, they're all training up there at the at elevation at Mexico City's PI, and they've all been pretty locked down there, as I imagine, especially with the craziness going around. Obviously, we didn't talk about the elephant in the room with the cartels and all the actions going around, which sound like mainly Guadalajara and Puerto Vallarta, I think, but a lot of different places. So obviously thoughts and prayers there, and we'll monitor the situation, but it looks like it's business as usual. Hence us breaking down this card, folks. I just didn't want to not go the whole breakdown without at least touching on that, right, Mike?
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right,
I
let's
was
go
I
to
was calling you. I was calling you. I wasn't even sure this fight was going to happen.
yeah, exactly. I mean, talk about things that only add maybe killing our motivation to looking into this card. It's just like, is this even going to happen now? You know, like Jesus Christ, come on now. We've got the next fight. I'm interested on this one. I'm interested to hear what you say on this one, Mike. We've got Douglas Da Silva Andrade, or as my guy Brad Tashchuk likes to say, Douglas Da Silva on drugs, plus 185 for Douglas Da Silva. I still need to see him in like a chopped, that cut off denim denim jacket with some fingerless gloves and his mullet. He just looks epic. And he's facing Javier Reyes, Colombia's Javier Reyes, minus 215 for the man off the Contender Series, under 2.5 rounds, minus 110, over 2.5 rounds, minus 110. I was trying to look at where Javier Reyes was training for this fight. I couldn't find any of his socials. I know my guy Danny Segura, who is a fellow Colombian, did a interview with him. Unfortunately, my Spanish isn't great, so I wasn't able to pick up too much off of that. But yes, he's coming off a win over Justice Torres over the Contender Series, and it's hard to tell. Justice Torres had like one flurry in him before he kind of fell apart. But Reyes did look good. He worked the body, things that I and you yourself, I know, to like look out for and love, Mike. But again, kind of like Gandra, this was a very last minute replacement. In fact, he was like the third out of two official replacements. Justice Torres, not sure how much to take from that. He does have a regional loss over back on LFA, which I know gave some people pause. No disrespect to Chris McCate, who got the win over there. He has been stopped before in his career by journeymans like Larian Douglas. Douglas Da Silva Andrade is a guy who I love picking as a dog. Even when I come up short half the time on him or more, it seems like as lately. He is 40 now, folks, and still fighting at bantamweight, even though he looks great on his socials. You know, he only fights about a year off. He had to take off last year doing an injury, but just fine. He only fights 1 year anyways. It's like he gets his weight down. He's got a really mean left hook. Knockout power. He can finish when it's on the ground. Decent scrambling ability for a bantamweight. Not blow you out of the water. Looked real bad against Miles Johns. Really underperformed in that loss. Again, usually even in a loss like the Saeed Nurmagomedov, I didn't feel bad about that loss. I feel like he actually put up a decent fight, even though he came up short. Miles Johns, he did not. So that is the worry here, Mike. But I am actually going to take a flyer on Douglas Da Silva on drugs. Not so confident in his money line. I do like his points handicap, though, at plus 100, 3.5 points. He is a traditional guy that is hard to get out of there as well. Cardio does not seem to be too much of a problem, though. Again, it's a red flag for kind of everybody when we're talking about Mexico City. Mike, am I crazy there? Please come and correct me.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm taking a flyer on Andrade as well. I mean, this is a guy who, we always talk about durability, right? I always say, we just said it before, durability keeps you in the fight. This is a guy, bro, the last time he got finished by knockout was 2018 against Peter Yan. Last time he got submitted was 2017, believe it or not, against Rob Font. So this is a guy who historically is durable. You know what I mean? He keeps himself in good shape. Yeah, sure, he's 40 years old. He's losing a step. But the deeper this fight goes, I always say, like, if you keep your body well and, you know, you have that durability and your chin is still there and, you know, everything is kind of working in concert with each other, the veteran savvy tends to take over in the later rounds. Like, this kid's going to have to put it on him early. And probably hang on. I don't think he's going to finish him. So I think, for Javier, he's going to have to put it on him early, bank rounds early, bank minutes early, because I think as the fight stretches, you're going to start seeing Andrade saying, I've been here before. I've been here before. Much better competition than you. And that's where the minutes will start stacking up. So, yeah, I think Andrade is a solid look.
Nice. Yeah, man. And Javier, it's his UFC debut. And when they're debuting from the Contender Series or smaller regional scenes, I know he's fought LFA before that we just talked about, but he's never fought in a card like the UFC live crowd, much less a Mexico City live crowd, right? You got that adrenaline dump, especially from a guy who tends to find early success. Now he's against a veteran who's going to stick around, so you got to fight that adrenaline dump trapping, UFC jitters trapping, and the looming nightmare that we've been talking about, which is elevation looming in the back door all the way till Act 3, all the way to the river, all the way to the, from the flop on through, right? So yeah, a lot of X variables as well, I would argue, on the veteran side, to your point, Mike. So Cool. Interested to see that. We'll see if we feel confident enough to lay a Benji Boy dog of the week, but that is one. And I don't know about a best bet, but let's also keep in mind potential head-to-heads and which ones we've been head-to-head on, Mike, as we round the corner these last 3 fights here. Now, our guy Dayton, who is amazing as usual, curious to see what his dog of the week is, because it probably was going to be in this fight, but we had a last-minute change-up with a female fight, and our guy Dayton is so awesome. He still has the odds for Ernesta Kareckaite versus now newcomer Regina Taryn. Of course, we've got Kareckaite as your favorite, not as wide as you would think, minus 125. Taryn, who is undefeated off that Mexico regional scene, plus 145, over 2.5 is minus 380, under 2.5 plus 303. Now, admittedly, Mike, I haven't been able to research this one. I haven't imagined you or many people have, to be fair. And it seems like I wasn't alone in liking the original dog in the spot. And that was maybe more of a popular dog. I'm curious on if you had an opinion on that previous fight as well. So I'm going to have to rearrange and look a little more into Regina Taryn. Were you able to look at all into this matchup? And for what it's worth, not that it matters, did you have an opinion on the previous fight?
I was kind of staying away from the previous one. You know,
Okay.
I either you could kind of talk me on or off either way with them. I was just looking at Regina Taryn just now, and 7-0. It seems like all her fights ended by finish. You know, KO, TKO, 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 submission, one decision, and submission. So, you know, who knows? I really don't know. I got to dig into this a little bit more. From some of the pictures that I have seen of her, she looks like she's pretty attractive too.
Yeah.
Her nickname is Kill Bill.
Dayton's already ready to go back there.
Oh, Dayton's got his fucking Dayton's got his fucking aloe lotion, his pecker in his hand. He's rubbing that fucking head right now.
By the way, guys, Dayton said he'll give it. He has his own. If you're familiar with the film Milk Money, Dayton has his own Milk Money story that he will give us if we get 100 more subscribers to the channel. So smash that like button and share this out. I'm just making up things for Dayton to share now. I'm sorry, Dayton. I'm throwing.
No, I will do that. I will do it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I don't know where to go here. I mean, for the sake of the show, sure. I'll say, give me fucking Kill Bill.
You know what? Fuck yeah. I need some dogs here. Let's go. Let me go with that as well. Cause again, I'm not super high on Kareckaite, even though she is clearly the more experienced fighter here. And just, you know, off her resume, forget seeing her fight. I would probably trust her gas tank more than a fighter who barely has gone a decision. But yeah, you know what? We'll go Kill Bill. I certainly need some dogs, Mike. So I will take that. I'll plug my nose with you, even though we're not putting any real money, nor should you, by the way, on either side of this fight. But
we're not going to make this our dog of the week.
I was saying I'd rather have Dion Drugs as our dog of the week if we're gonna go that route. But you know, those are our 2 options. Unless we both take the dogs in either of these 2 fights, we've got another giant favorite though, Mike, in Francis Marshall. Perhaps he's more justifiable to be at these lines than these other fighters. But again, none of these fighters should have minus 700s next to their name, right? But Francis Marshall is minus 725. The comeback on Eric Silva, not that Eric Silva, although the line would probably be the same. Plus 125, over 1.5 rounds for this featherweight affair is minus 120, under 1.5 plus 100. I actually like that over, even with the elevation, if I were to pick a bet for this fight, Mike. But I do not like this fight, even though I don't disagree with who is favored. Francis Marshall, again, his record is arguably even better than it should be, right? You look at the controversial scorecards that he was subject to, and he is, you know, was training under Kurt Pellegrino, has moved since, I believe, down to South Florida, I want to say, making improvements of that young age. I get all that, but again, like minus 725, that just kills my, speaking of peckers, that kills my boner. What about you, Mike?
Yeah. I've been following Francis Marshall for a while just because he is a Pellegrino guy. Pellegrino is a New Jersey native legend, dude. Like, that a lot
Batman,
of people,
baby.
Yeah, that a lot of people don't really know about unless you're really entrenched in like the regional scene and stuff. Kurt Pellegrino. But like I said, like in all respect to Pellegrino, like what does he really have at his disposal to really improve this kid's game? So you're right. He did go to Florida. He's at American Top Team. He's got a huge room to train with. I do believe he belongs to be the favorite, but like I said, those odds for even if you are super, super confident, how much is a 700 moving your line? Like you really want to take that shot on something like that. So another fight, props, the over, I don't mind it at all. I don't mind the over at all. But nothing I'm looking to tie into parlays or anything like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. 700.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll see what the round flyers are. I would maybe do like, especially if you were on the over, let's say, and my classic move would be like maybe you play the over that's playable, and then in the round robin you put Marshall to win in round two. Because I do think that's going
Yeah.
to be his hot round.
Yep.
And if it does get spoiled, just hope that it's you at least get the round two, or you get both, right? You sweat a little bit, it goes just over, and then you get that. But I mean, we're talking real degen with a degenerate microscope attached here, folks. That's the level you'd have to get to bet these kind of fights. Which we'll give you our opinions there too. I'm just saying it's not attractive at the money line. All right, lastly but not least, Dan Tom was waiting for this one. Mike's starting to get to know me, folks, because he looked at the slate and was like, oh, Jesus, Dan Tom's going to lose it. We got Damian Pinas, baby. Pinas time. Minus 245 for Pinas. The comeback on Schultz, plus 210, under 1.5, minus 180, over 1.5, plus 155. Mike, I got to tell you, I like Pinas. Don't clip that, Dayton. But he is a guy.
No, you got to clip that, dude.
Oh, no. Pinas tends to finish early, Mike, right?
Oh,
we are at elevation.
That's another one you got to clip.
So my question is here. Is Schultz good enough to test the durability of Pinas? Again, you guys read my grading the winners. It's like a whole paragraph. Like I'm recapping Pinas' fight, and the whole thing's like, there's plenty of guys at middleweight that are probably dying to test Pinas' durability. I can't wait. I just got to keep it short, Mike. He's going to tie off the third leg. Of course, Pinas is the third leg of the parlay. And the Pinas parlay, the alliteration, we got Pinas, Cháirez, and Martinez at plus 145. If you don't like Martinez, you prefer Moreno, you actually get a better line at plus 164 for the Pinas parlay. Mike, what are your thoughts?
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not as sold as on Pinas as you. I think when you look at this fight, like you got to be a little concerned if you're a Pinas supporter, right? with Schultz's grappling, like the guy is very serviceable on the ground, and if Schultz gets him on the ground, he could ride that Pinas.
Wait, so you're saying Pinas is less dangerous in close quarters than he is at range? That kind of doesn't make sense, but I get what you're saying. It just
no, but I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that there is a path there for Schultz to win this fight. I mean, there is a path for Schultz to win this fight.
Yeah.
I personally think there might be a little bit of value on the over. You know what I mean? It could be a little bit of value on the over here. So, I said, you got to be a little bit when you're a striker and you're like you said, he ends fights early and stuff like that. But you got a guy who can give you a problem on the ground, like he can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and like I said, these are raw guys. These guys are, they're doing it raw.
Yeah. And I don't know where Pinas is exactly based out of, but he has done some training with like Leo Santos over there in Nova and Yao with the jiu-jitsu gi. So he's gotten some good jiu-jitsu training, although it's not his top thing. I think he's only a blue belt, maybe a purple belt. I'm pretty bad like on colorblind as general, and then you got Pinas out there, just doing his thing. But I just threw in a parlay because, like you said, I feel like the totals are tricky, Mike. To your point, I think there is value there. But again, all Pinas puns aside, I do like what I've seen from him. And
no, I'm picking him. But like
you're on what? You're on who?
I'm on the Pinas.
I'm on Pinas. It's funny at the end. I was going, all right, we're taking this. I'm taking this fighter. I'm taking that fighter. I'm taking Pinas. And then I always do that.
Dude, when I was watching film on him, I was like, there's no way that they pronounce it like this. And they really do, dude.
Oh, yeah. You can hear him almost giggling. My favorite is, for those of you familiar with Michael Schiavello, back in the day, there was a fighter. I think he was over in One Championships, and he had the same spelling of Pinas, but Dayton, his first name was Brown. So this guy in Australian accent's calling the fight. He's going, oh, my God, it's Brown Penis. Brown Penis is on top. Brown Penis is going for the finish. And it's I love it. It's great. You can look it up on YouTube, by the way. I'm not making that up. That's not just my sick head, by the way. But all right, let's recap on that note. We got 10 minutes left to spare from our thing, Mike. I think we can guess Dayton's dog of the week, which we'll get to here in a second. As
Oh, dude, he
him,
went through a rabbit hole while he was making those lines. He's picking Kill Bill.
Yeah, it's gonna be, hopefully she doesn't kill Boner, but yeah, she's got our attention. So, Dayton, I guess let's start off with that. Were we right as far as your dog of the week goes?
100%, 100%.
He's too big. You too busy beating off the photos than making.
I hope you found a good. Did you make a post? You found a good picture of her at least?
That process is taking him a while, Mike. Let's just say that. Let's just say it's taking him a while to sort through.
I found a great picture of her.
All right, let me see. Come on, give me something good.
Hold on here. I'll get it to you.
Oh my gosh. Here we go.
It's gonna probably be a picture of fucking knowing that she's got like OnlyFans or something.
Be a giant picture of penis.
What a name, dude.
It's so great.
Like I would change my name legally. I'm just on the terms of that. Like call it fucking, I don't even think add Colada to it or something.
In his posts, like he doesn't mention that name. It usually says Damien, and then he made his own fight shirt, which looks cool, but it's his fight nickname, which is the Baba Yaga. I don't know what the Baba Yaga is, but I'm going by Pinas, baby.
Pinas?
Yeah,
here's my Pinas dog of the week. One sec.
Here we go. Oh, no.
I'm looking at the One Championship headline. It says Brown Pinas hit an amazing spinning elbow.
Oh, why'd you got to make it racist?
Put that on there. Yeah, you know what that looks like? That looks like when you go into like someone's house, like one of their someone in their family that passed away years ago.
It does, yeah. Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's dark but true.
Maybe that's a sign that she's gonna get fucking wrecked in there fucking Saturday night.
I forget this. Yeah, that's like the classic movie trope, Mike, where like where they film a woman at the beach. If you film a woman dancing at the beach in the waves, like she's gonna die. Because every movie we see, there's always the guy, like the ex-cop watching the footage of his dead wife, and it's always like him recording her at a beach. I don't know why that reminded me. All right, our dog of the week is going to be. Should we do a Benji Boy dog of the week? And if it is it Douglas Da Silva de Andrade, Mike?
I mean, I feel like we have to do one. So yeah,
let's do it. Douglas Silva, get us on the board. Douglas Da Silva de Andrade. Douglas Da Silva de Andrade will be our dog of the week. As Dating gets that queued up, Mike. Let's look at our head-to-head then, at least. Oh, there we go. Look at that. You look good next to Benji Boy. Do him proud, Douglas. Let's go, baby. I get to use my shout out to Pepe Sylvia. It's Soggy Dick special for sure. And I get to use my meme where it's like sensible chalk, and then it's the guy with the girlfriend looking at the hot girl, and the girlfriend's mad. It's Dan looking at old Brazilian dogs. Head to head, Mike. Which ones did we go head to head on? I guess we got to look at
Borjas and Rodriguez, or
did you actually take Borjas? You did, yeah. You actually did. We could do that one, but I would be rooting for you, which is the funny part. I would be rooting to lose because I want Borjas to win. But do we go opposite?
Or we did Macy and Perez.
You know what? That might be fitting, actually. That way I'll just keep my Perez pick because my analysis remains the same either way.
Oh, that's right. You might change, though. You might change.
No, but unless there's no better option, because if there's no better option, then I
think that's the only two that were against each other.
And this one makes sense because it's such a shit show. It represents this card, right? For our head-to-head.
I'll take Borjas. I'll take Borjas if you give me the +3.5 at +165.
Would you rather do that than the?
It's up to you. I'll let you pick it.
All right, let's just keep it simple with this one's line closer, and it doesn't really feel there is a true favorite. And for what it's worth, I'll go Macy. And if we, not that it has to line up this way, but like we did last week, the loser the previous week ending up on the true favorite. It's not the worst system in the world, right? So yeah, let's do that.
All right, we'll do that.
And I'd be just as happy if you won there too. So that'll be our head to head. So we filled out everything minus the best bet. I really don't feel like there is a best bet here. I've got my penis parlay if you want to deal that. And other than that, there's some sexy from Borjas, Douglas Da Silva, or Chito Vera.
I feel like the best bet should be Moreno.
Probably, yeah. It really should be Moreno. Yeah,
it really should. I mean, it's not. They're not in completely inflated odds. You know what I mean? They're 2-1 odds.
I would be scared of 4-5 decision, folks, for those, even though I agree with Mike, that's pretty much what it is, because I think round 3 is going to be live as well. Lone'er Kavanagh tends to put down the pack pretty hard because of the pace he fights at, which will leave pockets open, even if he doesn't get finished in round 2. We saw like in the Jose Ochoa fight, which granted that's Ochoa's hot round, right? So yeah, maybe just Brandon Moreno money line. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's
we're
close
allowed
enough
to
to
take
2
a
to 1.
minus
Fuck it.
200. Yeah.
At this card, come on now. It's not like we're on the 700. We're not on the slew of 700s at least, right? All right, so let's recap from top to bottom. Then we'll plug our stuff and get out of here. We're both taking Moreno over Kavanagh. We're both picking Martinez over Vera, although, there's trepidations on each side there. We're both taking Zellhuber over Green, although this is a spot where it's dog or pass if you're looking for any kind of angle. We're both taking Cháirez over Bunes. I think we both feel pretty good about that one. We're both picking Rodriguez. No, I'm picking Rodriguez. Mike's picking Borjas, but me and Mike are on the same side of this as far as it's Borjas or pass. And I'll be looking at Borjas live, one of my favorite live potential bets with Moreno, mind you. We're both taking Luna over Pacheco, obviously, but not excited about that line. Same with our taking of Gandra over Medina. Not excited about that line. Our head-to-head, Mike's on Chiasson. I'm on Perez, and it could go either way there. Wild fight. We're both taking Quiñonez over Moutinho, but again, not excited about that spread. We're both taking Douglas da Silva, Dion Drugs for our Benji boy, dog of the week, over Colombia's Javier Reyes. We're all three, me, Dayton, and Mike, Dayton's dog of the week, baby, taking Regina Terran over Ernesta Kareckaite. We're all both taking Francis Marshall over Eric Silva, which is not crazy about the line. And me and Mike are both taking Peanuts.
Yeah.
To close it off. Mike, where can they find you, buddy, and all your amazing work, sir?
Yeah, you can go to the madlabmma.com for write-ups, breakdowns, DFS, wagers, all that good stuff. We have a private Discord. We have the fantasy league that we're running for members. You can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter at madlabmma. I'm always during the fights. I'm scoring rounds and just chopping it up. So interact with me, and I usually answer every time somebody responds, unless it's something fucking stupid. But yeah, you can find me in those 2 spots.
Awesome. Yeah, I suggest you check out Mike there. If you're curious about me, you can find me at Dan Tom MMA on most social platforms, mainly active on Twitter, artist formerly known as Twitter for the work. Of course, you can find all my picks and plays over at my Substack for free at Dan Tom MMA. As I'll post some full plays up, like I said, if you're curious, or you can hit the rewind on here for what I'm on, and to see what more I come up with for you to potentially cook with or fade or avoid, well, you can check me out there. And again, check out the at Dogger Pass on YouTube over at the Mayo Media Network. Give us a like if you're listening to this, live on YouTube. But for the audio people, you can just see us over here. You can subscribe over here as well. Appreciate it. 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. Maybe some new ones represent the new lineup of hosts to keep the show up to date. Wouldn't hurt for accuracy of the show. And gosh forbid some help there. Shout out to my guy MMA Plays. Peanuts is raw according to official Ace. Thank you guys for joining the live chat. Hit the like, share it out, tag us, and good luck with your picks and plays. And always protect your neck
and your cock.
Yeah, Peanuts.
He cut it off last time.
I think we both made it.